Hey, if you're like me, you've got problems, trouble, even tragedy, chaos. Have you ever thought about how to prevent problems? What does it take to stop the chaos? How do you avoid trouble? Look around, and it doesn't take long, and you could say that there's a lot of craziness, insanity, dysfunction. This is Walk and Talk 199, February 22nd, 2024. We're talking about how to prevent problems, how to go from chaos to sanity, how to avoid trouble, how to prevent the dysfunction, and find some peace. So I'm going to read to you Proverbs chapter 8, verse 12. A couple of verses in the Bible. And then I'm going to focus on one or two suggestions. Proverbs chapter 8, verse 12 says that I, wisdom, dwell with prudence, and I, wisdom, find knowledge and discretion. And then verse 13 says, the fear of the Lord is to hate evil. The fear of the Lord is to hate pride, hate arrogance, hate the evil way, and hate the perverted mouth. Advice is mine, and sound wisdom I am understanding, and power is mine. That's Proverbs chapter 8, verses 12, 13, and 14. But I'm just going to focus in this walk and talk on verse 12. I, wisdom, dwell with prudence. I'm suggesting to you that the way to prevent problems is to get smart, is to get wise. And wisdom, to be wise, you have to be prudent, according to the Bible. So wisdom lives next door to prudence. That's Proverbs chapter 8, verse 12. I, wisdom, dwell with prudence. So I'm going to suggest to you that prudence, when you do a word study, that's discernment. That's sanity. When you're discerning, when you're sane, when you use common sense, when you find the wisdom of God, the wisdom in the Bible, you will make good decisions, not bad decisions. You will find the sanity returning and the chaos disappearing. So, a couple of practical suggestions. If you want to prevent problems in your life, you're going to have to get smart and you're going to have to develop prudence or sanity. So how do you find wisdom and prudence or discernment? A couple of practical suggestions. Number one, it doesn't begin with you. It begins with God. The context of Proverbs chapter 8 and the entire Bible points you back to God. God is smarter than you. God is wiser than you. Now, you can argue there is no God. The Bible assumes there is a God, and wisdom follows God. And you have the ability to take the truth from God and use that truth to give you prudence or discernment. Without the wisdom of God, that's necessary. But where do you find wisdom? Well, that's a part of discernment or prudence. So wisdom comes from God, but you also need to have the ability to practice that wisdom, and that's through prudence or discernment. It comes from God. I'm suggesting to you, if you do not start with God, your chaos will continue. If you don't try to understand what God says about something, you will find yourself in a cycle of dysfunction. So come back to God, assume God exists, the Bible does, and recognize that you're not smarter than God. As a matter of fact, when you look at the universe from a functional point of view, the universe and the laws of the universe are more predictable and more secure than your choices. Gravity is gravity. The sun rises and the sun sets. The hydro system of watering the earth, oxygen that we need. God has created an ecosystem. God has created a place for us to live, but start with God. I'm simply saying, agree with God. If you want to be wise, the wise person begins with God. And then you have to take this wisdom and understand from this wisdom you use discernment or prudence. Discernment, prudence, is the ability to apply the wisdom of God. So if God says, for example, don't be mean. The Bible says love one another, and you have a problem with being ugly. You have to back up and understand that's a violation of what God says. Yes, there are boundaries, and God determines what the boundaries are. You don't. I don't. So I'm just simply saying, if you want to avoid problems, practice the boundaries of God. One boundary that God has is to care for people, is to show kindness. But that doesn't mean that you have to agree. The text is saying, Proverbs chapter 8, verse 12 to 14, that wisdom dwells, partners, is close to prudence. And wisdom finds knowledge. Let me give you a second suggestion. The knowledge that you need to be discerning comes from God. If you want to be wise, if you want to be discerning, you're going to have to find knowledge. Knowledge would be the facts of life based on what God says, not what man says. Knowledge is the accumulation of the understanding of life. A simple way to prevent problems is to follow God. God says, this is right, this is wrong. And God says, here's the facts. And the Bible is simply saying, follow the facts of God. Find knowledge. And then the next word is discretion. Now, discretion is different than prudence or discernment. Discretion is speaking the truth appropriately, thoughtfully. Discretion is evaluating, is this the best way to say it? Is this the right time to say something? The knowledge that you have, the wisdom that you have. Is this person teachable? Is this person listening? Is this person willing to follow? If you want to prevent problems in your life, if you want to go from chaos to peace, you're going to have to find wisdom. And with wisdom, there's prudence, and there's knowledge and discretion. Let me give you a practical suggestion. Recently, this last week, I was helping coach someone, and the individual told me they had been doing betting, gambling, for the last, 3 years or so. And in the story, they said that they're in the hole. And I said, well, how much have you lost? And they said, thousands of dollars. I said, so the people who create the game called betting, whatever the game is, they believe they're smarter than you. But you, who are placing the bet, think that you're smarter than the gamer. So you have two people trying to outsmart each other, and you're saying you're thousands of dollars in the hole. You've lost thousands of dollars in the hole. You have many, many credit cards, basically maxed out. You have no savings account. You're worried sick. You're filled with anxiety. And I gently said to the individual that I care. The individual said to me, my trouble is hurting me. My trouble is frustrating. My trouble keeps recycling. I'm gently encouraging you to recognize wisdom, this ability to discern, get the facts, practice discretion, filter what's going on around you. My advice to the individual that was caught up in betting, gambling, and losing thousands of dollars, I said to the individual, why do you keep betting? Why do you keep trying to scam the game? The game is to scam you. The game is to fraud you. That's what gambling is. Somebody thinks they can create a game and outsmart you. And then you place a bet thinking you can outsmart the gamer. If you can't win the game, why do you keep playing the game? And the individual looked at me and said, I don't know. I said, why throw thousands of dollars away that you don't have? Why do that? I'm suggesting to you, if you want to go from chaos to peace, you're going to have to get behind the wisdom of God. The prudence, the sanity, the knowledge, the discretion that comes from God. So somewhere in life, we seem to think we can outsmart, now listen, God. We can ignore the principles in the Bible. Every human being who wants to be wise, who wants to be prudent or knowledgeable, who wants to have discernment, discretion, has to decide their beginning point. I'm simply saying you have fewer problems when you get behind God, when you get behind the Bible. I'm not suggesting that every Bible teacher or every pastor or every preacher or every Christian counselor has it right all the time. I'm saying God is right all the time. I'm saying the Bible is right all the time. We struggle because we think we can game the system. We think we can outfox the gamer. Just as my friend recently thought that he could place bets and eventually win big, when the facts are, for several years, thousands of dollars have been lost, and the individual doesn't have thousands of dollars. Let me give you a practical suggestion. When you're looking for peace, so when you look at the word prudence, it is the idea of sanity. When you're looking for peace, come back to God. Discover what is it in the Bible that you've been missing. Discover where the compromise is. Discover where the trade-off has occurred. What bet was you placing on man that you should be following God? Many individuals get caught up in a lifestyle, good morning, in a lifestyle of ignoring the wisdom of God. Proverbs chapter 8, verses 12, 13, and 14 says, I, wisdom, dwell with prudence, and I find knowledge and discretion. And the fear of the Lord is to hate evil. The fear of the Lord is to hate pride. The fear of the Lord is to hate arrogance. The fear of the Lord is to hate the evil way. I'm suggesting to you that if you want to prevent problems in your life, go back to the Bible, go back to God, start with God, build the knowledge of life based upon what God says, based upon what the Bible says, not what man says. It's easy, practical suggestion, to drift away from God, to drift away from what the Bible clearly says. Here's evil, here's wrong, here's bad. And all of a sudden, we find ourselves moving away from God, moving away from good, moving away toward evil. This is Walk and Talk 199. It's February 22nd. If you want to avoid trouble, I'm not saying you'll stop all of your trouble, because sometimes trouble comes at us. But I'm saying if you want to prevent problems, I'm gently saying start with God. I'm saying go back to what the Bible says, discover what the wisdom of God says, discover what prudence, how prudence and knowledge and discretion is defined based upon what the Bible says. Let me give you a practical suggestion. Be careful that you always find time to talk to God, to reflect. Listen to what God says, but don't neglect time with God. It's easy to get busy. There's 1,000 things to do in life. It's easy to just ignore God at times. It's easy to become frustrated with the Bible. Sometimes the Bible is difficult to understand. Sometimes it needs someone who can explain. I'm gently saying, take time quietly to be with God. Fear God. The verse says in Proverbs 8:13, the fear of the Lord. Start with God. Reverence God. This is Walk and Talk 199. It's February 22nd. I want to invite you to worship. Worship with us, or find another place to worship. Our church is located at 4525 South McClintock, First Baptist Church, corner of McClintock and US 60. Want to give you a quick phone number. 480-839-0926 is the church phone number. Or you can go to the website, FBC-Tempe.org, and you can find all kinds of resources, Bible classes. I'll be the first to tell you that there's not a perfect church in the world. But God is perfect. The Bible is perfect. Develop your skills based upon what God says. Don't compromise what the Bible says. Have a great day.